Pook runs in. So you just run in, huh? You just come in when you want to.
Yeah.
Pook just fucking runs in.
Yeah, she was getting in trouble just now. She was out on the porch and where you open the door to let her in and she like runs past you really fast.
Yeah, ran past you
which
real fast.
means
she got something.
I have something in my mouth and I don't want anybody to know.
She had a big old lizard with a tail that had partly grown back. I caught it and put it back outside, but because the tail was missing and grown back, it was one of her repeat customers. He was kind of chilled out about it. He was like, "Yeah, this happens quite a bit. You get caught, and that big two-legged hits you, and it lets you go." So he just waited. He didn't really avoid me. He's like, "Yeah, this one will let me go."
Yeah,
funny.
I guess so.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, the little gray monster gets me."
Yeah, and then this one lets me go.
And then the bigger flesh-colored monster comes and
and
takes me out of the gray monster's mouth.
Yeah.
Poor lizard.
Yeah, he didn't really fight too much. He's just like, yeah.
I like the way she tries to sneak them into the house, though. Yeah. Like, she thinks she's being all sly because she's like, "What? I don't have anything," and she like runs past you really quick.
Once they get beyond a certain size, she doesn't kill them. I guess because they can take the beating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I find little dead ones that she kills by accident. They can't.
Yeah, because she
little bones, you know.
She doesn't to kill them. She just wants to play with them.
She wants to play with them, but it kills them.
Yeah, when they're little, because she's like.
Yeah. So we're going to do a spoiler-free review on this one's called Relic.
Yes.
It's an Australian flick.
This is a brand new Australian horror movie. Just premiered, I think, at Sundance in January of this year, and it just dropped on the on various streaming platforms just a couple weeks ago, I think on July 3rd. And I'd actually been hearing a lot about this one. There was kind of like a lot of buzz about it coming out of Sundance. And this was actually the directorial debut of a woman named Natalie Erika James, also a Australian filmmaker.
Yeah.
And it was bothering me because one of the main characters in it, there's not a lot of characters in it. It's really a 3-character piece. But the mom in it is played by Emily Mortimer. And the whole time, damn it, I know she's been in a ton of shit, I know, but I was like, man, we just saw her in something recently. What was that? And it was
Fury Road.
No, it was Mary Poppins Returns, of all things.
Okay.
And that was the most recent thing that we saw that she was in.
I thought maybe she's one of the older biker women.
No. I'm not talking about the older woman. I'm talking about the middle-aged
woman. The middle-aged one.
Yeah. Because she looked like super, super familiar.
Okay.
But yeah, so basically this movie, it's gonna be okay. Like it reminded me of a lot of movies. It reminded me of The Taking of Deborah Logan. Even though that's found footage or a mockumentary, and this one's not. This one's just like kind of just a straightforward horror movie. But in the sense that the dementia could be supernatural kind of thing. It had that kind of vibe to it. Reminded me a little bit of Oculus, the Babadook a little bit.
Yeah.
Had a little bit, in parts, had a little bit of a House of Leaves thing. That's not a movie, that's a book, but just in the sense of strange geometry or like strange, like a house that's bigger on the inside or the outside. That was a little aspect of that as well. So this was kind of like, I actually really, really liked this movie. It was, it's pretty like low key. There's no big jump scares. There's nothing like that, but there's like some really nice, like creepy kind of imagery. And I think it did a good job of like kind of just building up. It had like a really cool like atmosphere about it, like a dread kind of atmosphere to it. And as I said, it's, the setting that they used with the house and the fact that there's pretty much only 3 characters. There's a couple other, like there's a guy that lives next door that's kind of factors in a couple minutes, but most of it is just these 3 characters, these 3 women. And so I think it had like this really nice kind of claustrophobic type of thing. Now that said, if you don't like, because it is kind of, like I said, I don't want to spoil it, but it is kind of like a more symbolic type of horror movie, kind of like the Babadook was. So if that sounds like something that's going to make you mad, then probably you won't like it.
Yeah.
But I really dug it. I thought it was pretty cool. I don't think it was like fantastic or anything. I probably liked the Babadook better. And I liked Oculus better, but this movie is kind of in the same line as that, like in the same genre as that.
I thought it was a well-made movie, but I also thought it was kind of samey. There's a lot of movies like this.
There are, yeah.
It's well made. It's Australian. It just I enjoyed watching it. It's just that nothing really to me really stood out about it. there's a lot of movies like this. It just seems
Yeah.
like another one.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a
like
good
another
one.
Yeah, it's better than watching a bad movie.
Yeah.
It's just, I think maybe if I was younger, I'd fucking would have enjoyed it more. I mean, I've seen so many movies and fucking scenes. You know, they all kind of are the same. These type of horror movies now. Just if you ask me, they seem to be the same.
Well, a lot of them are similar. Like I said, there's, you know, and I think some people too are trying to replicate the success of, you know, some movies, you know, particularly in this case, like I said, The Babadook, which was also an Australian movie. So
everything's been done. It's hard not to.
It is. It's really hard not
everything's
to.
Been done already.
Yeah, because you don't want to make something so out there that you're going to, you know, turn people off because it's too weird or doesn't make sense or whatever. But then again, you don't want to make something so generic that people just like forget about it, and that's kind of like it's like a difficult thing to do, I guess, because as you said, you know, everything's been done.
Visually, it looked good. The acting was good. You know, the edit was good. It tries to do kind of like what you'd call like a slow burn, and I'd say it's successful at that.
Yeah,
it does kind of ramp it up to some weird shit that happens. So I can't fault it for that. I can only fault, really, at this point, I can only fault the damn genre. The genre's been around so long that everything's been done already.
Yeah.
That's really where the problem is.
I mean, you could argue that things had been done like way before that, because you can always find like older examples.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Maybe it's my age.
Yeah.
Maybe a younger person would enjoy it a lot more because, you know, they're not as familiar with these motifs and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but I really don't think they make movies for people in their 40s and 50s. I think they really are making it for people more in their early 20s, teenagers and in their 20s. I think that's who they think is going to come to the theaters.
Yeah, I don't maybe not so much nowadays.
Not nowadays, but that's originally what it was, I think.
Well, yeah, I do feel like, and I mean, that's even going back to That's even going back to the 50s, really. Yeah. Is that you know, younger people were actually maybe even longer ago than that, because
30s, 20s.
Yeah, because that's what little
TV.
Kids. They didn't have TV, so you know you'd give them a quarter and they'd go like watch all the movies all day long. People
forget how old theater is, or how cinema is very old.
Yeah,
it is an out of date format. I mean, it's being replaced with streaming.
Yeah,
you know, that's just the way it's.
Well, and like I said, that's what ended up. This one, you know, premiered at Sundance, and you know, got a little bit of a buzz about it. And then, you know, the streaming platforms picked it up, and you know, they started showing it this summer. The Australian streaming service, they have one called Stan, which I think is very funny. But it premiered on there, and did we rent it on Xbox? I think we rented it on Xbox.
Yeah, rented this one on Xbox.
Yeah, and I think it's you can rent it on YouTube. You can rent it like other places too. It might be on Amazon Prime as well. But did we even say like, okay, so this is what the movie is about? There is a woman named Kay, and she has a daughter who's like in her 20s, named Sam. Now, they have heard that Kay's mother, Edna, has not been seen. She lives alone, like kind of out in the, you know, not really the woods, but you know what I mean? It's kind of out in the suburbs or in the rural area. And the neighbors have said that, you know, we haven't seen her around in a little while, so maybe you want to come and like check, because she's an older woman and they think maybe she's losing her marbles or whatever. So the mom and the daughter go out there, and weirdly, when they get there, they can't find Edna anywhere. She's not anywhere in the house. You know, and then there's like kind of mold all over the fruit in there, suggesting she's been gone a long time. And so, you know, they're kind of looking around, they ask the neighbors and everything, and they can't find anything. And then finally they go to the police and report her missing. And then after a couple of days, Edna shows back up, but won't tell them where she was or what she was doing, and seems to get kind of pissed off at them when they ask her about it. And then like things start to ramp up where, you know, you get like kind of weird noises in the house, maybe like
stuff starts
some shadowy kind of things going on, and you're not really entirely sure. And then like Kay starts having this recurring dream about this old cabin that used to be on the property. And
that was the best part of this movie, is is them talking about this old cabin. On this property at one time was an old cabin that somebody's dad was in.
It was her great grandfather.
That's right. And no, he wasn't really being taken care of properly when he was real old, and he was just kind of left out there, and he died out there and was dead in that cabin for a long time before they came and got him. And they keep showing back to this damn cabin and the body rotting in the cabin, and that part stuck out to me.
Yeah, the imagery on that one was very effective. I thought.
Yeah, I really liked that. Like I said, the movie unfolds a bunch of paranormal stuff. Can't spoil everything about it. It is a good movie.
Yeah,
it's just really what really wasn't for me. You know what I mean? But I can understand why other people might like it.
And I really like that. I really kind of liked the way, one thing I liked was that everything tied together. Like you had this thing about this shit that had happened in the past with her great-grandfather and him dying out there kind of alone because no one had been watching him.
Yeah.
And then you get the feeling, I mean, that's kind of the whole theme of the movie. And why it's called Relic, which could mean like the cabin out there, what it could mean Edna herself. Old people. And like what ends up happening
forgotten old lost people.
Yeah, when they're like forgotten and they just are left out there to their own devices.
For me, the theme was basically about abandoning the old.
And just about aging and decay in general, bodily decay.
Yeah. And what happens when you abandon the old? It's like it's kind of like the movie's going to kind of let it be known that the movie is going to portray abandoning the old as a very subtle form of evil. That's how I picked it up. Yeah. That it's like an ancient evil sin that people do.
Yeah, that just kind of like continues, like it's a cycle.
Yeah, that they forget about their grandparents and their great-grandparents and they die and oh well.
Yeah, and then it kind of comes back to haunt you.
Yeah, right.
But it's also,
I like that part.
It's also kind of saying too that aging and decay is inevitable, and like in the sense that it happens to everybody. Because I mean, the last, like I said, I'm not going to spoil it, but the last shot really kind of hammered that home.
Yeah.
That it was going to continue.
They're trying to play on the dread that your time is coming too.
Yeah, which, like I said, I think that's one of the best things about it is this atmosphere of dread that kind of infuses the whole thing. And it's kind of like, it's a creepy movie, but it's also like a sad movie. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's really sad. It reminded me a little bit of Hereditary too, although I didn't like it as much as Hereditary because I loved Hereditary, but along that line.
What's funny though, in my experience, that's how good old people die. Evil old people, they die surrounded by a bunch of people taking care of them.
I know,
that's what usually happens.
I know, that's shitty.
They're not alone.
I know it's terrible.
They're not alone. No.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah, they're not alone, and they got people fucking waiting on them, and it's gonna be okay. Filling them full of shit. Everybody knows that they're gonna die, and they just like they're talking 1 minute, and then they're dead a few hours later.
There's no justice in the world, not really.
No. And then somewhere else, out in some neighborhood, you know what I mean? Fucking woman falls over, breaks her hip, gets wedged in between a piece of damn furniture, and dies of thirst out there in her house.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
That actually
we were talking about that when we were watching
all her cats died. They couldn't get out of the house. She laid up in there for about 8 years before they found the body because she owned the house. They didn't find her body until they were going to tear the house down.
I told you that when I used to live with my grandma, the man next door died in the house. Yeah. Just sitting in his chair. And he was in there for several days before anybody found him. And I mean, because I came outside, my grandma was outside. She's like, Jenny, come out here. There's a hearse and everything. And I was like, what? So we came out there and they said, he was just sitting there in the chair. He was in there like a while.
That's usually how dudes go out though. They're sitting there and all of a sudden just fucking heart attack. Boom. Or stroke. Boom. That's it.
Just sitting there watching football or whatever.
Football.
Like eating some Cheetos.
That's how my dad's dad died. He was young. He was only 42 years old. He must have had some kind of defective heart. He was fucking cheering on some dude boxing on television. He was fucking, I don't know, my dad knew who it was. He was rooting for some dude, watching the fights. Get him. And he's fucking throwing, and he goes, I don't feel too good. And then boom, was out. That was it.
Huh.
Yeah, and he was like 42, 43.
I mean, I guess if you got to go, that's probably the best way to go because he probably didn't even know what happened to him. And he seemed like he was having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, he was all right.
Even
he was having fun. He was young.
That's crazy.
It's like 42 or 43. He must have had some kind of defective heart.
Yeah, because that's very unusual.
He wasn't overweight or anything. He was my build.
Yeah, well, because
So-
sometimes if you have like little, I know this is terrifying, but
Yeah.
sometimes if you have like little, like a hole in your heart or in the
Yeah.
aorta or something like that, like it's too small to
Yeah.
notice, but it's like, it's just kind of like a ticking time bomb.
That was
in there.
back in the 50s, you know, they didn't really, you know,
Sleep tight.
Yeah. Back in the 50s in Mississippi, he probably never had an x-ray or anything.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't really have any outward symptoms
Yeah.
and there's no reason to go get checked on.
No, he seemed normal.
Yeah.
He seemed healthy.
Somebody said reminds me of A Rose for Emily. Yeah, it did kind of remind me of that a little bit as well, that story. But I was gonna say too, my grandfather, he just had he lived by himself as well, and he just had a what do you call that? Like a brain hemorrhage.
They said that's because evil
And he
people
just
die.
like died in there.
Evil people die surrounded by people because you're right. They're all waiting for their money.
Well, yeah,
he's
everybody's
exactly
like,
They got money. Yep. They're treating people bad their whole fucking life, and then all of a sudden people are coming up, oh, it's fucking
kissing their ass.
kissing their asses
Put
and
me
shit,
in the
trying
will.
to get some fucking money. Yep.
Motherfucker. But yeah, another thing that I really liked about this movie too that I wanted to mention is that there were, because I've gotten to a point now where, especially after kind of all the offshoot Conjuring movies like The Nun and everything.
Dude said he read that dudes with big nuts fucking are more prone to heart attacks.
Really? I've
That's
never
what he
heard
said.
that. I wonder if there's
That's what
some
he
kind of correlation.
I think he's bullshit.
Well, it's very possible there
There
could
is
be a correlation.
So
I don't
dude
know.
dies of a heart attack. They go, come on, bring him over here. Let's measure his balls for our study. Where's his ball measurement? Let me get a cast of them balls. We're gonna put those with the rest of
We're
them.
gonna hang them on the back of the pickup
Yeah.
truck. Well, yeah, is that really something that they would measure, like on
Yeah,
like when they were
I
doing
think
an
it's
autopsy
bullshit.
or on a dead body? I don't know. It's like that seems like not something that you would immediately
Yeah.
jump to,
Yeah.
like measuring the balls. But yeah, so what I was saying was that, especially movies that came out kind of in the that were kind of Conjuring ripoffs or even like in the extended Conjuring universe, it really does seem like everything is jump scares.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point where it's just annoying. This movie, I liked that they didn't do that. And there
No.
were a couple of times where you thought that they were going to do that,
Now
but
you
they
men-
didn't do it.
Now that you mention it, this movie looks like a Conjuring movie. It doesn't have, like you said, a lot of the gimmicks that a Conjuring
Yeah,
movie.
it's not gimmicky,
But visually, it does kind of look like a Conjuring movie.
it does a bit.
Yeah. But that's not bad. That's good.
Yeah, just in the sense
Yeah.
that it has that muted
Yeah.
kind of
The
aqua
palette.
colors palette and like with all the
Yeah.
the black kind of mold and stuff, because the mold is like kind of a big thing in there, which
Yeah.
actually, now that I'm thinking about it, kind of reminded me too of another movie, I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, which also had a thing with mold and ghosts and kind of
Yeah.
identity, like overlapping identity. and
This
stuff.
is a ghost movie, I guess.
It could, well, the thing
It's
about
hard
it
to
is
say.
that
Is it a ghost movie?
it could be read either way.
Yeah.
You could read it as a metaphorical story,
Yeah.
or you could read it as a supernatural story, or both. It really works as both things.
It's a ghost movie, kind of like in the way that High Plains Drifter is a ghost movie.
Yeah, which that sounds off the wall, but I
Yeah,
get what
It's
you're
like
saying.
a Revenant story, I guess.
Sort of, yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Maybe it's possession. We're not really sure.
That's what I mean. You could read it that way, or you could just read it like as a straight up metaphor, like the Babadook is.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's good, because I think it works in either way. Because you could argue that some of the shit that happens in it, like I said, the sort of House of Leaves direction it goes in, like in the third act, like with the weird rooms and the girl can't get out and everything. You could argue that was actually happening, and that wasn't just like a symbolic manifestation of of Edna's deteriorating mental state, but you could read it that way too. So I just think that's cool, because it seems like it's it has like double layer, it's like double meaning. So yeah, this is a perfectly good, like I said, any of the movies that I compared it to, if you dug any of those movies, then you'll probably like this one as well. Like I said, I don't think that it's quite as good as those. I think I liked this as much as I liked Oculus. You know what I mean? I haven't seen Oculus in a few years, but I remember liking this one and that one about the same. I didn't like it as much as the Babadook or Hereditary or anything, but it's along those lines. So if that sounds like something that would be something that you're into, then by all means check it out.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's the this woman that that directed it. This is her first one.
I say it's about like one of the Conjuring movies.
I liked it better than the last few Conjuring movies we saw. Yeah, the weird thing about it, and I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but The Conjuring, the first Conjuring, is a good movie, but I don't get why it turns up on so many best horror movie lists. I thought it was okay.
I like La Llorona. Remember La Llorona?
It was all right.
That had some creepy imagery in it. And we were in there with a bunch of fucking teenagers, and that fucking skinny ass Mexican boy kept fucking screaming. Remember that?
Yeah, that's
And then he tried to play it off like he didn't scream.
Yeah. It's like, dude, we're all right here.
Yeah. He's like about 16 or 17, probably weighed about 110 pounds, trying to be tough as fuck. Trying to play it off to his friends and shit. Nah, I'm just kidding. I hear him back there. It's like, bitch,
I was just kidding. I didn't really scream.
Yeah, bitch, you were screaming. People were like, and it was like, and he was doing it during the build up to the jump scare. When you know the jump scare is going to happen, he'd scream about fucking 3 seconds before everybody else. He couldn't take it.
The stress was just too much.
Yeah. And he had that fucking thick kind of Mexican accent and shit. That fucking that shit scared him.
That's very funny.
But I was kind of living vicariously through him, though. You know what I mean? Because fucking like, I hadn't been scared in a movie in a long time. It's kind of funny to see.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, yeah, I used to get that scared at shit like fucking Alien 1. You know what I mean?
But see, I always try to, I mean, you know, being a horror movie fan and, you know, yes, once you get older, it's not quite the same.
Yeah, it's not the
But
same.
I always try to put myself back in that mindset.
In those days, yeah.
Because it's like, I mean, if you're watching a horror movie, I want to like surrender myself to it. I want it to scare me. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what it's for.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I really do try to get invested in them. I'm not one of those people. It's like, oh, you know, horror movies, they never scare me. Because you're not like allowing yourself to get sucked into the story. It's harder
though when you get older.
It is harder, but I do like to try to do that. Because like I said, if you're not
impressionable, you're more impressionable and you haven't seen all the tricks yet that film does. You know? And he was falling for every one of them, and I was up there in front of him fucking giggling and shit. I turn around and look at him, you know, see who it was. You remember that kid?
Yeah, vaguely. I don't remember what he looked like, but yeah.
He's just a little skinny Mexican guy.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
I don't remember, I remember liking La Llorona more than The Nun.
Yeah.
But
I remember seeing the silhouette and way they were making that La Llorona ghost move.
Yeah.
It was disturbing. It was very disturbing. It would come out of walls.
Yeah.
And there was something that they did. They showed it for too long, and I lost my fear of it.
See, that was a lot of horror movies make that exact same mistake.
Yeah, they showed it for too long and up close its face, and I was like, oh, okay, I see that at the club. It's a girl. it's a girl in makeup. They shouldn't have never really countenanced it. You know, they should have never really shown it that clearly.
I really got into this, and this has been a discussion going back to fucking. I mean, a lot of people talk about it in regards to like Jaws, and how the fact that their mechanical shark wasn't working properly worked in the movie's favor because they couldn't show the shark as much, which consequently made it scarier. Because if you had seen a whole bunch of it and it was clearly a mechanical shark, obviously it's not going to be as frightening because it looks fake. But I'm always kind of the person, like, I don't want to be one of those people, because I remember reading in Stephen King's Dance Macabre, and he kind of went into this a little bit too, like, is it better to never show your monster, or just show parts of the monster, or just show the monster like immediately, and just kind of get it out of the way first? Whereas I've always kind of thought,
don't show it clearly and don't show it close up.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's better to leave a lot to the audience's imagination. I mean, that can be done badly, whereas like where you watch a movie and like they just don't show anything and it's not clear enough to see what's going on. And I can see that pissing some people off. But if it's done effectively, I think it's way scarier. When
they were first showing the damn La Llorona, it was mostly just a silhouette. You could barely see it.
Yeah.
And it would come out of walls, and that was very effective.
Yeah.
When they showed it clearly and its face clearly, and I think it spoke, didn't it?
Did it talk? I don't even remember.
And once
Did
I
she
saw
talk?
it, I went, oh, okay. They should have never showed it that clearly.
They shouldn't have showed it that much and that clearly.
Right. It should only kind of.
Well, they were trying to do something like they did with Valak or whatever the fucking nun's name is, because you know that image of her has been so iconic. But honestly, even the earlier movies that had the nun in them were scarier when you couldn't quite see her.
Yeah.
Like when she was just in the background and shit. I mean, one of my favorite things, and one of the reasons why Hereditary was one of my favorite movies of the last few years, was because they specifically, I mean, there was those fucking great scenes where, like, you know, Toni Collette is like up on the ceiling, but they didn't, if you weren't looking up there, you wouldn't see it. You know what I mean? Like they didn't put shit in your face. They just had all this shit going on in the background and they didn't call attention to it. They did the same thing in Haunting of Hill House, you know, on Netflix, where there was like always little, like there was faces and there was just all this shit and you couldn't even catch all of it because they were trying to do it subtly.
Midwest Outlaw tried to post a link to the proof that if you have bigger balls, you get a heart attack. All right, bro. I believe it. Kind of, but that La Llorona thing reminded me of, you know, the here at Disney World, the haunted house where they had that fucking ghost to that damn woman going fucking, you know, until death do us part and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
You know? We had a friend who worked on that ride. He was a mechanic and he worked on that ride. And he told me how they made that fucking ghost. And I was like, really? That's what it was? I forgot what it was, how it was done, though. That shit was fucking weird. When you're in that buggy and you see that thing, it looks like a three-dimensional.
They do a lot of it with mirrors.
Yeah, it looked like a three-dimensional, semi-transparent moving fucking figure. I mean, it's very fucking convincing. And you go by it, so you're seeing it in 3D. It looks like a hologram. It's not, though. It's an optical illusion.
Like I said, they do it with mirrors. They've been doing that at like circuses and stuff like that for like a century at least.
Yeah, it was very... it was a mixture of a bunch of stuff. It was you were seeing a reflection on a piece of glass mixed with something having to do with, oh shit, what was it? Nylon or something, stretched out nylon.
Yeah, like cheesecloth or something.
Yeah, there was all, and it looked like a damn three-dimensional, semi-transparent, glowing fucking woman. You could see right through her. She was face fucking transforming and you could see her heart beating in there, and she had a damn pulled out an axe, and the axe went. Remember that?
Yeah.
That big shine like that. Like fuck.
The weird thing.
And I think they took it out. I think they said that the kids thought it was too scary.
Well, the weird thing about that was that. See, I don't remember because I have been at the Haunted Mansion at Disney World here in Central Florida like a million times, and I don't ever remember that being there. I think that was a Disneyland thing. I don't know. They might have added it at Disney World.
I saw it and I've seen it on
I'm just saying that they might have added it subsequently.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm just saying that the last time I was at Disney World,
last time I went there, it was there.
That was fucking years ago. I don't even remember when
somebody
it was, but it wasn't there.
Somebody snuck their phone in there and they have compiled many minutes of it.
Yeah, I've seen it on YouTube.
On YouTube.
I was just telling you that when I was growing up,
she has a name.
Last time, and then last time I went to Disney World, it wasn't there, so that must have been a newer edition.
Yeah, she's talking about all the husbands that she killed. She's saying matrimonial shit like until death do us part. And she pulls an axe out and it fucking gleams, and then she says a bunch of weird stuff. You know what I mean? Fucking. And she thinks she's counting off 1, 2, and then around there are all these
one dead husband.
Yeah, she's talking about all the fucking dead. And you're going through the attic, and she's up in the attic, and there's all these fucking old pictures of her with all these different dudes, and they're like,
she's like Belle.
When you look at the picture, he's there 1 minute, and then all of a sudden his head's vanished.
Yeah,
and she's got an axe, and then in the next one, there's like fucking he's poisoned. You know, all these dudes that she had killed. She's a Black Widow.
I love the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, and all that fucking 1800 shit.
When I was a kid, I wanted to live in there.
I wish they'd make it a little more scary.
Yeah.
You know, there are parts of it that were when I was a kid, but still quite fun the last time I went through it.
Yeah, I haven't been on it.
It had some ominous.
Probably 10 years at least, maybe longer.
When I was a kid, that was my favorite one, and Snow White, and then Space Mountain.
Yeah, those were really good. And I liked the Thunder Mountain Railroad.
Peter Pan. You're in that damn boat. You're flying over that little fucking model city.
You know what was weird when I was a kid? That Snow White ride scared me more than the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
did.
That witch
the
came
fucking
out,
witch popping out in your face,
screaming. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I was like,
Shit was loud.
It was, and I was just like, oh, so much.
And then the voyage to the bottom of the sea.
yeah, I used to
gone
love
now.
that one. Yeah,
It's
they
gone.
don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I like I said, I think a lot of people don't even like kids nowadays wouldn't even fucking remember that fucking movie. They're trying to like keep stuff updated, and I don't know, I haven't been. Yeah, the Pepper's Ghost Effect. That's what it's called. I have a book over there on my shelves, Joe Nichols' Secrets of the Sideshows, and he's got diagrams in there of how they do that effect because they've been doing that at circuses for like since the end of the 19th century at least.
I went by it many times because I rode that fucking ride many times that day and tried to figure out what it was I was looking at.
Yeah. That's probably a combination of mirrors and projection.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't figure it out. It looked like it was really there, but it's not.
Yeah.
Or, it's not there.
Mirrors,
but it looks like it's
mirrors. There. If you angling them toward each other, you can.
What's
do all
weird
kinds
is
of
that you're
exciting
seeing
things.
it. You're seeing it from the front when you first see it, but you're in the buggy and you pass it. You see it from the side.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. It's not. It's a 3D illusion,
Right.
because you're looking at it from the side when you go by it.
Yeah.
But you can still see through it. So I don't know how it's done. Although that guy that I'm telling you about, I'm not gonna say his name. I don't want to. He told me how it was done. And I was like, oh, of course. It was like real simple.
Yeah, when it's kind of the thing where, like I said, when I was looking at the diagrams of the Pepper's Ghost illusion, it's like when you're looking at it, it looks amazing, but when you see a diagram of how they do it, you're like, oh, obviously.
Right.
You know what I mean? It seems really easy. It's just nothing you would think of just offhand.
Yeah.
Somebody asked, who is the old lady in the crystal ball at the Haunted Mansion?
I always thought it was Phyllis Diller.
Isn't it? It kind of looks like her now that I'm thinking about it.
It's not, though. It was an actress.
I didn't think that was her. Yeah,
It was
that
an
didn't sound like Phyllis Diller's voice. That would have been really funny if that was Phyllis Diller.
Yeah, I thought it was Phyllis Diller.
Bang!
Yeah.
She says as you go around the fucking crystal ball.
I think there may be more than one. Might have been more than one. I think it was updated a couple times, but the original one I remember as a kid, it looked like Phyllis Diller.
And like I said, Disneyland was built before Disney World.
Yeah.
So ours is slightly different.
Well, I've been to both of them.
I've never been to the one in California,
but
I've been to the one here in Orlando, obviously, like zillions of times.
The haunted house felt a lot older. Okay.
Yeah.
It looks dingier, and it looks more like an abandoned house. The one that they have here, it almost kind of looks like it's in too good a condition.
Yeah.
Even
though, as far as I know, it was built in 1971 or 1972.
I'm talking about when on the ride.
On the ride, it looks.
When you're on the ride, going through it, it looks a lot older and a lot more threadbare. It looks more authentic.
Yeah. I get you.
It looks like you're in a real, real Victorian mansion.
Yeah.
The one here has kind of a cartoon element to it, and you can tell the stuff's not that old.
Yeah.
Like the carpeting and stuff.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It looks like something out of the Munsters. The Munsters house.
Yeah.
Looks what it looked like. I think the layout was a little bit different. And when you leave the house and go out into the graveyard's a lot bigger.
Yeah, because the graveyard at ours is kind of small.
Yeah, the graveyard's a lot bigger, and you're convinced that you're outside.
Yeah.
But you're not. But they do a really
crazy.
good job. And then where there's a couple little rooms that were missing out of the Orlando one. There was one where it was like a room in between a room. It was like to give you kind of like a sensation of fucking going from one environment to another.
Yeah.
And it was a huge spider web with a fucking gigantic spider about 6 feet across up in a corner. And that isn't in the Orlando.
Yeah,
one.
that's not in ours. I don't remember
gigantic fucking looks like a damn banana spider or something.
I think I remember there are some big spiders like in the graveyard bit.
Yeah.
But I don't.
No, there's one part where you're in a big empty black room with a gigantic web in it, and there's fucking up in the corner.
I don't think we have that.
Up in the corner is a fucking spider about 6 feet across.
I mean, it's been a while since I've been on the haunted house here, and I think they've added some shit to it since the last time I was there. Somebody was asking what the cover charge was, like what it costs to get into Disney nowadays.
Oh, it's about at least 100.
I think it's getting up there because I think even last time I looked, which was several years ago, was 85 or something like that. It's like a ridiculous.
It's not worth it.
Which, like I said, you know what? I wouldn't mind paying that if you could eat for free all day inside the park.
It's
like
not
if you didn't have to pay. But, you know, you go in and then the restaurants and everything are overpriced too.
Yeah.
So if they just let you like eat whatever you wanted and go on all the rides.
And
then...
most of the park looks like shit. And like you go through the jungle ride and the signs that you go through underground, you see signs and it's obviously just cheap plywood with fucking sequins nailed to it. It looks like crap, most of it. It's very outdated.
I mean, they're updating stuff, but it's really slow.
Yeah, and then like the animals coming up out of the water are all faded in the Florida sun. You can tell it's just a fucking rubber animatronic and all the fucking paint's painted on them. They look like crap. For the same amount of money, you could go to Universal, and it's 20 times the theme park. Universal is much better.
Yeah, I think Disney really does suffer like in comparison to Universal.
That Harry Potter fucking visual fucking VR ride, the virtual reality ride, fucking awesome. The roller coasters are really good. It just Disney's what you'd take a little kid to.
Yeah, it still has that, you know, little kid kind of magic, but it is a lot more geared toward way younger children
and foreigners.
You know, well, just to say that you've gone there. I mean, really, like the Haunted Mansion's awesome. You know, Space Mountain's still pretty awesome. You know, some of the like Splash Mountain's fun.
You're gonna have all this fucking merch, all this fucking Disney merch, the fucking hotels, fucking it's overpriced if you ask me.
Yeah.
And shady shit's happened there over the years.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I used to have like I said, we don't, you know, when I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of money. So vacation was just, you know, driving an hour and going to Disney World. We never stayed overnight or anything. It was just like one day we'd go like once every couple of years. And so I still have fond memories of it from when I was a kid, but you know, it's
only a couple rides worth seeing.
Yeah, there's really only a couple good rides there. And they are, as I said, they are trying to update things to be more in line with like their newer movies, like newer, you know, IPs and stuff. But it seems like it's slow going.
They don't really care about that shit. They're making most of their money off of things like hotels and merchandise.
Yeah, because that's
like they don't really care about that.
Well, because you know they have all that other shit too. They have all those hotels around it. They have downtown Disney. Although a lot of that, you know, that's kind of just stores and everything. Even though a lot of that shit's closed now too. But like, because
for the money, you want to go to Universal. They got all those Marvel heroes there. Fucking girls dressed up as fucking super fucking heroes and guys dressed up as superheroes. You take pictures with them. Better roller coasters.
Yeah, that's much more geared towards
adults.
People and their, you know, like young adults and
you'll have fun there.
Yeah, we went there. When was it? 8 years ago?
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, we had fun.
Yeah, we had a good time actually.
Yeah, you're gonna get wet. You're gonna get wet. You get wet on half those fucking rides.
Yeah.
But it's hot here.
Yeah, so nobody minds.
Nobody cares.
Because it's like, yes, please spray me with cold water before I have a heat stroke.
Yeah.
All right. So you done
we cut it off.
talking? Okay. So yeah, we actually went on longer than I
everybody's saying
thought.
Hi, everybody's here.
Hi everybody. Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, like I said, this movie is called Relic. It doesn't have anything to do with, you know, the Relic that came out in the 1990s about the museum. Which I remember that being kind of cheesy, but fun. I haven't seen that in a long time. But this is a totally different movie. So this is a new one. And like I said, if you dig any of the movies that I mentioned in comparison with it, then you'll probably like this one as well. Like, you know, nothing earth shattering, but it's a perfectly enjoyable movie. Not super long. It's only an hour and a half. And you can rent it on pretty much all of the streaming platforms that I know of, YouTube and whatnot. So that'll do it for today's matinee. We'll probably do another one tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll probably do another matinee or sidetracks or something like that. Probably about the same time. If I can find a new movie to watch tonight. Somebody asked us to do The House That Jack Built, which I had actually been wanting to see. So I don't know. Maybe I'll watch that tonight or some other day and review that. Lars von Trier. I don't know if you're going to like that or not, but we'll see how it goes.
I don't have to watch it. I was gonna
All right. So we'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. Thanks for coming by.